Hello and welcome back to another episode of Wealthi Expat. This week I've got Rami from Stake, from in Dubai, in fact, on the podcast with me this week, and it's a pleasure to have you here, Rami. How are things going for you?
Thank you very much, Chris. Great. Thanks for having me on this podcast. Really excited for it. Been looking forward to this all week.
Good. Hopefully we can make your week. It's an honor to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to learning more about how Stake works as a business and how you're finding things in Dubai at the moment and understanding that Dubai market in a bit more detail. So it should be a good chat. But as a whole, how are things now going in Dubai? Hopefully post-pandemic, or post-pandemic as it is at the moment. We feel like we've come out of the worst of it. But how are things going in Dubai from the COVID perspective?
Well, I it's crazy. I mean, I don't feel like we actually went through a pandemic in Dubai. If you lived in Dubai through the pandemic, I think you went through it for like 3 months, and then it was life as normal. I think they've done a phenomenal job here with maintaining the pandemic, making sure they were very safe, locking up the airports when they needed to. Getting everyone vaccinated. I think the UAE in general was number 2 country in the world in terms of getting the number of people vaccinated, and they just did a phenomenal job. And I really mean this. I think 3 months into COVID, everyone was like, "Oh man, when is this going to end?" And we're like, "Oh, listen, it's ended." Our life was back to normal, and that's really been reflected in everything from hotel stays and real estate numbers, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But yeah, I mean, Dubai is back better awesome than it ever was before.
That's great. You guys had a very strong vaccination output from memory. I think you guys had achieved your vaccination numbers within a couple of weeks from memory. Was it?
No, well, I think it was over, if I'm not mistaken, a 6-month period. Okay. But they were getting everyone vaccinated. It was very organized. I mean, honestly, I had friends who actually came to Dubai, got residency specifically to get vaccinated, because back home where they weren't able to get the vaccine. So I mean, it just shows you the how great the leadership is here.
Yeah, they've done a good job indeed. They've made I think a lot of these European countries very jealous, and hence why a lot of Brits are slowly making their way over to Dubai more and more. For sure. But that's good to know. It's good to hear that things are definitely back on track, and hopefully I'm sure the tourism numbers haven't really dropped a significant amount for Dubai over this pandemic. It's been almost a safe haven for people to get away to, but it's good to see that things are back to normal pre-pandemic days. Now, it'd be interesting if you could tell some of our listeners about Stake, how the idea of Stake came about, and just understand your business a bit more, if you don't mind giving us a bit of a rundown on the business itself.
Sure. So just a quick summary on myself. So I've been living in Dubai for the last 16 years. All I've done is real estate. So I've seen the market grow. I've seen the market slow down. I've been through the peaks and the lows. But throughout my entire career, I've managed teams both on the sales and marketing side, and looked at retail investors who want to invest in the real estate market in Dubai. The beauty of Dubai as a city is it appeals to so many people internationally. Everyone wants a piece of Dubai, and having worked with some of the biggest developers here, I got exposed to clients from all over the world. Specifically, I lived in Russia, I lived in Nigeria. I was able to travel around and see how Dubai appealed to so many people. But there was always a disconnect, because you would see that people would fly into Dubai, and Dubai easily sells itself. They come in, they see the tallest tower, the beaches, the security, infrastructure, and everyone wants a piece of it. But there was always a disconnect and a misalignment, because someone would come in, and the brokers or the developers, some of the times there was many times where they wouldn't really offer them the best product in the market. And I was seeing that, firsthand. You get someone from abroad coming in and end up either buying something that was overpriced, where the returns were exaggerated, or they were buying something that was off plan, where they had to wait 4 to 5 years to see any returns. And I was seeing that firsthand throughout my entire career. And I'm like, okay, listen, there has to be a better way of getting these investors to make money from this fantastic market. And the thing is, when people are investing in a foreign country, it's always, they're a bit worried, and they don't know the rules and regulations. And if they end up having a bad experience, they end up talking about it and telling their friends, and it's just a bad reputation. So if you can find a way, and there's a lot of great property here, there's fantastic developers and brokers, and I think some of the times they just end up some of these clients end up in the wrong hands. So looking at the market and saying, how can we build a platform or a product that allows people to invest in real estate without putting all that capital into one property? And I think real estate is a great asset class because everyone understands it. It's not like equities or right now crypto. It's a very straightforward product, right? I invest in a property, it's rented.
You go touch it, money and it's there.
Exactly. Exactly. I was taught from whenever I was young, but if you make money, if you put money into property, right? We're always taught that, buy a home. So we have an affinity to real estate. So there's a big opportunity to creating a platform where you simplify the entire investing process for these clients. And doing it in a very transparent way where you're giving the information, putting that information in the power of the consumer and allowing him to make and her to make that decision. Yeah. So we and then COVID came, and I think that was fantastic because people are a lot more open to doing things online. People are just the speed of adoption of technology has been huge. So what we did is, okay, listen, we wanted to create a platform and say, okay, real estate, and now COVID happened. How can we get real estate online and allow people to invest in under 3 minutes from their phone? In a very transparent way. And that's what Stake is. It allows people to invest in Dubai real estate in under 3 minutes, in ready residential real estate. And we allow people to make dividends on a monthly basis. So yeah, that's what it is.
That works very well. It's interesting to hear your perspective on how the pandemic really helped shape the business as well. I think, obviously we weren't able to go out and spend our money on fancy dinners at restaurants or go out for a coffee every morning or whatever it may be, the leisure aspect of life. So people had these savings built up there. And I think from, what I've seen on your platform and the way in which it works, I think it's a fantastic way for people that have some savings tucked away that don't want to put up too much capital into property, but still give them some exposure to the real estate market, give them an understanding of the real estate market and how it behaves and the sort of returns that you'll get on that money. And I think it's definitely, you've been an opportunist in an opportunistic market, you could say, and taken advantage of it. And I like it. I like the idea. From a client perspective, so who do you think would benefit most from using your platform?
Good question. I think anyone who wants to invest in real estate. So there's two people. There's people who want to buy real estate and can afford to full out, invest in property. And to that type of client, we say, listen, why are you risking all that capital or putting all that capital? With any investment, there's risk, right? Why would you put all that capital into one property? We're saying, listen, through our platform, you can diversify. And rather than putting all the equity into one property where there's high vacancy risk, diversify that capital across 5 or 6 different properties, or put it into 5 or 6 properties and use that other money into equities, or diversify that portfolio. And then there's the other type of client, which I've always seen throughout my career, are people who really want to invest in property but just couldn't afford to. Their mortgage got rejected, or they didn't have that savings to invest into that property. So we say, listen, we open it up, so we allow people to invest for any amount. We actually we're announcing our Expo promotion tomorrow, which is we've lowered our minimums to no minimums. So we'll let people invest from any amount they want in any property for starting from 1 dirham. There isn't no minimum. And what we're doing during Expo, which is the biggest, if you don't know what Expo is, it's one of the biggest exhibitions in the world. It's happening in Dubai. Tomorrow is the date. We're giving every person who invests on our platform 5% cash back.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
some good incentives.
On any investment. On any investment they make. So this is just part of our Expo promotion.
Okay.
But and to go back to your question as well, is also our platform opens it up to people who want to create a disposable income. They have disposable income. They want to create a secondary income, this monthly dividends. And I think real estate provides that.
Definitely. So, that's interesting. It's interesting to hear these different perspectives, and that's I think that's an incredible advantage, being able to start with, like you said, 1 dirham, for example. What was the previous buying before? Was it 2,000 dirham? Is that correct?
Yeah, which is, it was our minimum was $550. We had that minimum for 8 months, and then obviously the expo coming, and we realized, listen, why are we setting a minimum number for what people can afford in property? That's not, it shouldn't be up to us. And so we decided, listen, we want the investor to decide how much money they want to put into real estate and how much they want to put into each property.
That's brilliant. And how do you choose which properties that you're going to add onto your portal? What process do you go through for that?
So first of all, by regulation, we're only allowed to do residential real estate. So the Dubai regulator, the DFSA, only allows us to do residential real estate, which is not a problem, right? Because in COVID, I think residential real estate is the prices are increasing. I mean, in Dubai, they're up 30%. I mean, we're on track to see $30 billion worth of transactions this year, which is the best since 2013. So we focus on residential real estate, and the way we onboard it is we look at, we have certain data points that each property needs to qualify, and it depends on the developer, the location, the view, the size, the occupancy. Do we feel that we can do both short term and long term? What is the vacancy risk? There's a lot of points to do that, and we've actually developed a machine learning algorithm with MIT in the US, part of their project called Capstone, which we will be announcing very soon, towards the end of the year, of how we're going to start using that to better help us choose better deals.
Sure, that's interesting. That'll be a powerful tool, and that'll be very, very helpful. It was going to lead on to my next question about what types of properties you invest in, but you've answered that question with the residential side of things. And from a price point perspective, do you focus in a certain kind of price field, say the $500,000 to $1 million property price range, or does it really vary depending on what you're willing to take on?
Good question. So when we started, we obviously wanted to start small, in terms of the property price. But right now, I think it's, recently we just closed one of the, it is the highest value property for crowd invested in MENA. It was close to $550,000, which was, our biggest property yet. But right now, I think, part of in Dubai market right now, the luxury market is doing very well. So, I mean, there's an article the other day in Forbes that, the world's richest have moved to Dubai. And you see the property prices are going crazy right now on the luxury side. So, we're not bound to any specific price point. If the deal makes sense, we'll onboard it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think going back to your point you mentioned before around the increases in property values that you've seen, did you mention it was about 30% from memory? That's astronomical increases for the year. So I think, Dubai's only got one way to really go at the moment. And, unless we see something that we saw or similar to what we saw in 2008, which touch wood we won't, and hopefully the Chinese situation with Evergrande sorts itself out. But I don't think, the Dubai market is a strong place to invest. I lived in, as I mentioned to you prior to this, I lived in Abu Dhabi for about 2 years, and to see the amount of change and the evolving of Abu Dhabi in the 2 years that, or just over 2 years that we were there was astronomical. You arrived on 2000, it would have been about 2007 when we got there, and literally you get off the plane and there was almost nothing around you. It was just a desert, a barren wasteland, you could say. And
100%.
And in 2 years, you've got the creation of a city and everything that a city needs, really. So I think that it's always going to be one of those places, isn't it?
Oh, and I think COVID has really cemented Dubai and just the UAE in general, because I think before people used to say, oh, Dubai is the best city in MENA. Now it's like Dubai competes with the likes of New York and Paris and London and Singapore. I mean, it's a global city. It's very connected. I mean, you have Emirates Airlines. You can fly direct on anywhere, right? And I think the leadership here, not just in COVID, but they've done a phenomenal job after COVID in making sure that people feel a belonging, right? They've now issued long-term visas. And people now, and you see this, right? So there's a lot of renters who have become homeowners now. And there's a shift in the market. So that just shows you people are making Dubai home. So yeah, I think long term,
interesting.
This is a great place to invest. And I think, you have to be very careful in where you invest, in which location, which developer. But if you get it right here, the returns are really better than anywhere else you can get in major cities.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And that leads on to my next question around the risks involved with investing with Stake, for example. And how do you mitigate those risks of buying a property when there is going to be multiple owners to that property investment? But yeah, how do you mitigate that risk?
So the way it works is, so we agree with a seller when we identify a property or a property comes to us. We agree with the seller that we will get them we sign an MOU, and memorandum of understanding, that we would get them the agreed price, and then we list it on our platform. And then obviously investors buy stakes into the unit, and then we close it and register an SPV in the DIFC, which is the Dubai International Financial Center, where we're operating from and regulated from. And then the title deed comes out in the name of the SPV. So all the investors get share certificates, official share certificates from the DIFC. They can even check their name in the DIFC registrar to see that they are in that SPV. And then the title deed comes out in the name of the SPV. So in terms of there aren't any risks in managing the property or owning the property. So God forbid something happens to Stake, that property is owned by that SPV, and the title deed is name of the SPV. So we actually have no ownership interests in the property, and by regulation we're not allowed, so that there's no conflict of interest. What we do have responsibility to is managing the entire process, forming the SPV, and then actually keeping an eye out on the asset manager to make sure that they're renting out the property, that they're getting the maximum returns, meeting the projections, and making sure that the property is well taken care of.
Okay, so do you, when you are given these properties, do you list them almost kind of like a campaign and say it's 90-day campaign or expressions of interest? You have 90 days to express your interest on the property, and then once that 90 days comes to an end, that's kind of the end of the campaign, and you can no longer invest in that property. Is that in essence how it works as well?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, we do 60 days. There's a timer on each property, and ever since we launched, knock on wood, we've all our properties have been funded and closed, and even shorter than 60 days. And I think it's partly to do with the fact that people want to invest in real estate, and partly because obviously the market in Dubai is hot, and it's really helping us.
Definitely. Let's talk a bit about that Dubai market now, and where the interest and most of your inquiry may be coming from. But to start off with, that was going to be my question. So where is your interest coming from for a lot of your deals at the moment?
From an investor point of view?
From a country perspective. So is it American interest or European or Asian for that matter?
Yeah. So actually, within in 8 months since we launched, we have over 65 different nationalities have invested on our platform.
Wow.
And that's just testament to how much people around the world are interested in Dubai and parking real estate, or parking money into real estate in Dubai. Our main markets, and if you look at Dubai, around 85% to 90% of the investors are non-residents. And we have investors, so there isn't just I can't tell you the majority of them are from one place. Really, we have investors from as far as Singapore. We have investors in Canada. We have actually we onboarded our first Australian investor a couple of weeks ago.
Epic.
We haven't we have I'll give you a country where we had our first investor from Finland. I mean, and the beauty of it is it shows you how scalable it is, because Dubai appeals to so many nationalities. We can run a campaign in the country, and you'll be sure that you'll get people investing from those places.
That's incredible.
So that's where most of the interest is in.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think it just goes to show how strong that Dubai market is, as you mentioned. I think that it's got that international recognition. You're in a very central location in terms of a global perspective, and it's quite easy for really anywhere in the world to access. So I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity from a global perspective with that Dubai market. Now, in terms of how your business is working and the Dubai market, but how have the locals kind of reacted to the way in which Stake has come about? Are you getting interest from the Emiratis as well?
Yeah, I mean, actually our biggest So, the investors who put in the most amount of money on our platform have been Emiratis.
Right.
And yeah, and I think there's always been that, because Emiratis know the market very well. When they see a good deal, they know it. It's their home. So I think that's the advantage we've had, that all our deals that we've put on the platform have been great deals. So yeah, that's been great. And the beauty of it is referrals, right? So because the community here, when you're here and people have a great experience, they just refer, and we've had the fantastic referral rate from the local Emirati community.
That's awesome. That's definitely a step in the right direction.
And yeah, and I'll say something. When you have Emirati investors, it shows that you're doing something right, because they know the market,
Exactly.
and they understand the market. So if that's been the big testament for us.
And they'll all talk to their families as well, and you'll end up, word of mouth goes around, and before you know it, you'll have more and more investors.
Exactly.
Right direction.
Exactly.
Like referral agreement. So in Dubai as well, are there many platforms similar to this? I know in Australia we've got a couple that are a similar kind of business model. The UK's just started introducing a couple more, but in Dubai, are you one of the only, or is there a couple businesses that act similar to yourself?
I know of one. I wouldn't say they're very similar, just because I'm very competitive. I'll say we're much better. But there's. I mean, you're always going to have more players coming into the market. This is a big enough market. I know of one, but I think what differentiates us is obviously the team, the technology we're building, the experience we have in the market. And there's some exciting announcements we're going to be making very soon. We have a fantastic group of shareholders behind us, who are not just very, very big on tech, but they're actually real estate developers in other markets. Our lead investor is a real estate developer in the United States with over $6 billion under management. We have another shareholder who's a real estate developer in London. Actually, they've built the tallest residential tower in London. So eventually we will be looking at bringing in more properties, not just in Dubai, but outside of Dubai, onto our platform.
That's great. I think there's definitely an opportunity there, and as we touched on at the start, I think people even similar or slightly younger than me that have some savings there, they're ready to get into property and don't have, let's say, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 tucked away where they can go and pay for an entire deposit and fund the mortgage. So I think it's a great alternative for people to create an extra stream of income, that have a more passive income, you could say, and still have their main job, but whilst having exposure to the real estate market. I think it's a fantastic opportunity, and encourage a lot of people 100%. Who are listening to get involved if you are within means to, or you just want some exposure to the market. Most definitely.
100%. And I'll say one thing, sorry, Chris. For me, it's people say, okay, how much money should I put into real estate? And I will never tell anyone to put all their money into real estate or a significant part of their portfolio into real estate. The whole point of Stake is, diversify. We allow people to put a portion of that wallet that they have, of that disposable income, of their savings, into real estate, without having to, worry about a mortgage, without having to worry about, putting a big amount. And I think, anyone who's listening, who's always wanted to, participate in the Dubai real estate market and has said, oh, listen, I don't understand the rules and regulations, I don't want to put that much risk. I think, as a platform, we provide that transparency, and we really allow people to get that real estate exposure, which we say part of 20% of your portfolio should be into real estate. And we help people do that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's a great initiative. And if anyone is listening and wants to have a chat to the team at Stake, they're a very friendly bunch. I had a call from one of Rami's colleagues last week once I'd signed up to the platform. And yeah, it's great to have a chat with them. And if you want to have a chat with Rami, I'm sure he's more than happy to do so.
Of course.
In terms of the real estate industry, and this is kind of from a general perspective, but do you see changes, or do you see it? Obviously, you see an opportunity with Stake at the moment with the way in which the real estate industry is evolving. But can you see a lot more businesses or companies coming to market as technology and innovation changes for the real estate industry, but similar business models to yourself? Do you think that you might be, carving the way in a sense for the change in real estate?
I think, I see end users and buyers moving to make their real estate buying and investing decisions online. I think you'll always need that human touch, because it is a big outlay with, real estate, buying a home or investing in a home is still a big decision. But I do think that all these decisions are going to be pushed online. And I think developers and brokers or anyone in the real estate industry that is still, focused or still doing things before, like they were doing it before COVID, I think, they're going to be left behind. And I'll go even as far as saying that people will end up buying real estate the way people buy things on Amazon. Really, with on-demand services. I mean, you're ordering groceries online today, and I say this. My grandmother moved from Lebanon to Dubai recently, right? Bless her, she's 82, enjoyed always going to the grocery store, choosing her fruits and vegetables, right? She moved to Dubai, and I was at her house last weekend, and she was ordering groceries off her phone. And I'm like, I mean, what are you doing?
You're a new woman.
Yeah, exactly. And that just shows you the power of technology. And had it not been for COVID, she wouldn't have done that. And I think, on-demand services are becoming a lot more mainstream across all channels. So and people are becoming a lot more impatient. They order something, they want it now. And I see that just transitioning to real estate, buying and investing.
It's true, actually, and same goes for even funds and shares and in banking these days. The amount of power that you have from these little devices that you can do. I don't need to go and speak to my branch manager in the branch anymore, or I don't need to speak to a fund manager. I can just do it all on my app, and if something goes wrong, okay, they'll flip me a message and we'll sort it out. But you just that face-to-face interaction is slowly losing its power, I feel, and I think that we're going to start to see more and more businesses adapt and online and technology-based platform to make it as simple and easy as possible. I think the way in which we now, like you were saying with the Amazon stuff, we don't want to go down to, say, the Westfield or the Dubai Mall or whatever it may be to go to our shops. We'd much rather just sit on our computer or sit on our phone and order it and have a next day delivery. So I think that we'll start to see more real estate businesses adapt. Not a faceless business. I don't think real estate could work without having some face-to-face interaction, but I think that we'll start to see a lot more platforms adopt that technology side of things and make it as easy as possible for people to do as much as possible without speaking to someone.
And speed is so important. Like real estate inherently is a slow process, right? Like you have to you see a unit, you view an apartment or a villa or whatever it is, and then you have to, agree on the price, negotiate, get a mortgage, sign the papers. I mean, it's an inherently long process. So I think the winners of the, the people who are going to be championing or pushing the envelope of this change are people who can actually lessen the amount of time of that transaction, that entire process. And I think, that's where the key is. And I'm very proud to say that really on Stake, in 3 minutes, you can own a piece of Dubai. And, I think even that, we're finding ways of shortening it, right? And I think that's what people want today. Getting people to not only, lower the risk in investing in real estate, but making that experience a lot more seamless and streamlined and shorter.
Definitely. I really want to buy myself a piece of Dubai real estate now, so I'm going to have to look into this. And I said that to you last time, but I will definitely have a bit of a look into it. I'm keen to play around with it. I think it's definitely a good way to have some exposure to an alternative market opposed to something that I'm used to in the UK or Australia, for example. So it's definitely worth exploring. And any listeners that are exploring, as I mentioned before, Rami would be more than happy to have a chat with you. And we will have his contact details in the description to this bio as well, if you do want to reach out to him. But Rami, it's been fantastic to have you on the show today. I really appreciate
it. My pleasure.
Time and glad that, hopefully your day hasn't been too chaotic. I know you had a bit of a stressful morning, but hopefully this has relaxed you a little bit more and given you a bit of a break from the corporate world. But thank you once again for jumping on. Thanks
a lot for having me, Chris.
It's been awesome. So any listeners that are listening to today's show, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. We'll get back to your comments. And if you have any questions about the business of Stake or even just want to have a chat about the Dubai market or the Australian market for that matter, please feel free to flick myself or Rami a message and we'll get back to you. But thank you again. And thank you, Rami. And we'll speak very soon.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.